Hey guys, it's Madison, and today I'm going to be talking about whether or not I think I will ever be going back to Korea, either to live or to visit. First of all, the simple answer is yes, I will definitely be going back to Korea for at least a visit in the future. And the living part is more where I get more up in the air. I loved living in Korea. I studied abroad there for 6 weeks in 2016, and then I lived there for a year, ending last October. And overall, I really enjoyed my time in Korea. I chose to leave for a variety of reasons. I made a video about why I left. You can see that if you're wondering why I ended up leaving. The gist of it is that I was working at a Hagwon, and that's not my life plan to work at a Hagwon teaching kids for the rest of my life. And I wanted to come back and spend more time with my friends and family here. But in the future, I've given a lot of thought as to whether I want to spend more time living in Korea at a different job, or if I want to just have it as a place that I visit every once in a while, but never actually permanently live there. There's obviously a lot of factors that go into this decision, the primary one being my job. I've thought a lot about how exactly I want to take my degree into the rest of my life. I have a master's degree in applied linguistics and teaching English to speakers of other languages, which means that I could kind of basically go one of two routes. I could either pursue a PhD and keep studying linguistics and doing more research and kind of be in that academic field, or I could teach more ESL, teach English either in the US at a kind of like intensive English program kind of situation, or abroad theoretically if it would be in Korea, at a Korean university teaching English there. So first of all, for the next school year, so starting this fall and through next around May, I am going to be teaching English composition just to American students at the university that I graduated with my master's program. That's kind of because I haven't really decided what I want to do exactly quite yet, and so this is a way for me to, get more university teaching experience, make money, and take time to think about what I want to do with my life. But it also, it gives me kind of more time on my resume teaching at a university. Because if I do end up choosing that I want to teach at a Korean university in Korea, for a master's degree, you generally have to have at least 2 years of university experience after you've graduated from your master's degree. So the teaching experience that I had while I was getting my master's degree, even though I did teach classes at the university level during that time, doesn't count at all towards my teaching experience when they look at my resume. They totally scratch that off. For now, I'm just teaching at the university level, just in case I end up wanting to go that route, just to keep it as an option. So as far as reasons that I would want to go to Korea and that I'm seriously considering it, is just because I really enjoyed the lifestyle that I had in Korea, if that makes any sense. It's very convenient to travel with the train and public transportation. I found that it was generally pretty cheap to live there. Of course, when I was living there, my housing was provided, which is a big factor. But a lot of the university positions also have provided housing or a stipend of sorts to help offset that cost as well. But as far as food and necessities, I found that it was pretty cheap for my style of living. Now, reasons to not go, there are also some other things. I don't know, there's not any one big thing that's this is unbearable, but a lot of little things that I'm just used to the American style of more. For example, I didn't have a dryer when I was in Korea, and that's pretty typical for a lot of Korean apartments. They'll have a washer and you just hang up your clothes to dry. That's fine, it's totally a feasible way to do things. You could also go to a laundromat and they have dryers there, but as someone who prefers to wash and dry their clothes for the most part, I miss having a dryer. Just kind of the little things in life that you're used to that are just a little bit different. So those kind of minor things, that wouldn't be a huge deal. And then the big factor also of just my family and the kind of big hassle it would be to ever visit. It's also obviously a big factor as well. I did obviously really enjoy the time that I did spend living in Korea, but I'm not sure if it would be worth it to live there to also deal with those kind of minor life inconveniences, as well as just being away from my family. I've also considered the option of trying to get either an additional master's degree or a PhD in Korea. That would probably be the most fun for me personally, as well as the most challenging as far as like pushing myself to do a challenge, I guess, just because, you know, obviously taking advanced classes in Korean would really push my language skills. You know, generally I've been fairly successful and have not struggled a lot in school, but obviously taking classes in Korean would make me, rather than the top of the class where I usually would be, it would make me more of an average or at a disadvantage to the other students, and I would have to work extra hard to be successful. So I have considered getting my PhD in Korea. I would really enjoy the challenge. I always have liked pushing myself to do hard things in that way, and I think it'd be a really good opportunity to take my Korean to the next level. But at the same time, I'm not sure that I would want to bring that stress upon myself as well if I had things like scholarships and, you know, grades riding on those classes. Do I really want to put myself through that really difficult experience for years on end, just for the sake of having the challenge? And then also, I'm not sure that having a degree from a Korean university would be as valuable as one from American university if I wanted to go back and then teach at an American university later in life. So I'm not sure if it would end up helping my career, even though I think it would be a really great life challenge and personal challenge for me. So probably not going to end up doing that route, although it is something that I'm always kind of just considering in the back of my head. Let's not stress myself out in that way. And then the other option would be staying in the US, for now working at university, and then ending up getting a PhD in linguistics, or just teaching ESL at a university or at like an English language institute, and then just occasionally visiting Korea when I had the chance. Obviously it'd be easier to be close to my family in that case, but at the same time, part of me does kind of long to live in Korea at some point again in the future. I was talking to some of my friends this past weekend, and they were talking about when they're probably gonna go back and visit Korea again. They're all Korean. And one of them asked me, like, "Oh, Madison, like, are you not gonna go back to Korea anymore?" And I was like, "Oh, like, 하고 싶지. Like, of course I would love to go." And they were like, "Oh, why?" And I was like, "What do you mean, why? I love Korean culture. I love just the experience of being in Korea. Just, it's hard to describe in words, and I had difficulty describing it to them as well, but just Korea is just different from America. I love America and I love Korea for different reasons. And I don't know, like when I'm in Korea, I obviously miss certain comforts of home, and I miss my family, and I miss my friends who are back in the US. But when I'm back in America, I miss the experiences that I was able to have in Korea, and I miss my Korean friends. So it's kind of this weird position that I'm in. Korean has been a part of my life since I was, I think, 15 years old. It was back in 2010. So it's been 11 years now that I've been studying Korean and have had Korean friends and have been immersing myself in Korean culture and the language. And at this point, it's almost half of my life. And the more time goes on, the more of my life, like the longer Korean will have been a part of my life. And so it's not that I think I'm Korean now or anything, but culturally speaking, it's like I'm not 100% American anymore, and I'm also not anywhere close to 100% Korean, but it's like I'm kind of like mixed culturally. I'm kind of bicultural in a certain sense. And so I feel like Korea is kind of my home away from my home country. And so even though I'm not from there, I kind of always have this longing to go back and at least visit or to go and live there again. I've always been kind of jealous of people like, for example, Josh and Ollie from Korean Englishmen. For their channel's activities, they often, like for their job, basically several times a year, they go to Korea and film things, but then their home country is England. And I've always just thought that would be great if I could somehow find some sort of job that would allow me to spend half of my time, or not even half and half, but every year have part of my time in America and part of my time in Korea. That would be like my dream situation, so that I could have the best of both worlds and be able to see my family a lot and my friends in the US a lot, and the things I love about America for, part of the time, but then also be able to go and experience Korea and the things I love about Korea and my Korean friends, and have that for part of the time as well. So I don't know, I'm still working on my future and what will give me the best balance of the things that I want from life. The different options that I have, all of them seem really good for different reasons, and I'm just not sure which one I'm more drawn to at the time. So for now, I will keep doing my university teaching. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the end, but long story short, I definitely will be going back to Korea for one reason or another. We'll see if I ever actually live there long term again, or if it's just occasionally visiting. The sun suddenly came out, so the lighting is suddenly really strange through my window, but yeah, I'm not sure what's gonna end up happening in the future, but long story short, I'm definitely going to go back to Korea someday for some reason or another. I'm not sure if it will be to live or just to visit, but Korea is part of my heart now and will always be part of my heart, and I'm gonna find my way back there some way or another in the future. And yeah, those are just my rambling thoughts for today, and until next time, 안녕.